And it's just me and Carol Borner. Hey, Carol, how are
Woo!
you?
I'm great. How
Great.
you doing, Kev?
I'm awesome. Full disclosure for everybody, I didn't make it through my primary. That's why I'm just here as me, not as me running for office, which actually kind of frees me up to say exactly what I want about many, many things where I was being nice before. And I don't have to anymore.
You, you were
Not
hold,
that I was really all that nice before, let's be honest.
you were holding
And
back.
um, that's the question, isn't it? We'll find out. I'm super excited to have Carol on. Carol linked me to a tweet that Jessica Carjala actually had. And
Yeah.
let me pull that up for people. I'm gonna throw it in the slot or in the captions. Well, where am I putting it? Chat. That's what I'm doing. Putting
So
that there.
it was actually in response to an idea that I had that the state's projected to be. I can't remember how much surplus, um, but the Hill and I are. Uh, anyway, so if the state has that much surplus in the revenues, why not? And we're paying 32 cents a gallon, I believe, gas tax. Why not
Hmm.
give the people a break and pull that away? Well, just this, and I knew that Jessica or Margie McDonald would have some input from me, and it was easier to ask them than to. I'm gonna go look it up myself. And this is Jessica's response, and I love her response because it's that we have to pay for gas tax because uh, we have to pay this gas tax because we're unwilling to pass a primary seatbelt law to get federal funding. And I find this so interesting because, like with the current money with COVID and now this, and I'm sure that there's other places, but it seems like that the Republicans, the governor, as well as the legislature, um, is willing to cut off their nose to spite their face just so that they can proudly say that they're not taking federal dollars, which are federal dollars that we have paid for, right? That they come from our taxes. So anyway, that's my little rant. Sorry, Gab, just jumped right in,
No,
pissed
I
about.
think that's great. One of the interesting things that people, so not everybody knows what a primary seatbelt law is. So we'll start with that. A primary seatbelt law is actually, can you be pulled over for not wearing your seatbelt when you're driving or in the passenger front seat of a car? And the answer is in Montana, no. They can only charge you if you are pulled over for something else. Currently, 15 states, 34 states have primary seatbelt laws. And 39 states have laws enforcing rear seatbelt use. In Montana, we do, but it's not a primary law. So we don't get federal funds for things. And federal funds seem like they might be a good thing. I don't know if anybody's looked at the weather reports today or seen how much water we got because we were worried about not having water in a couple weeks back. And now we've had floods destroy bridges in Montana.
Right.
So I guess your question was, is there a way that we can remove the gas tax to kind of let up on the cost for gas to some of the public? That would be a nice thing, but also I would point out if we're not getting any federal money to do things like fix our roads and bridges, we kind of need the gas tax right now because we just had rivers destroy our bridges. So
And
that's
our
a tough
roads,
one.
yeah, and, and our roads. And I guess in just a slight digression is that today is June 13th, 2021. The Robertson fire was in full force in Red Lodge. So it's really some climate weirdness. Last year we were so damn dry that
Hmm.
we ended up having fires all summer, and it was so hot. And this year we're so wet that anyway we're washing out Highway 89 north of Garden.
Right. And Main Street in Red Lodge is a river,
Yeah,
which it's not supposed to be, just so you know. In case any of you were curious, Main Street is actually a paved street. There's asphalt under there, but it's underwater. And it's very fast moving, dangerous water. And I Hope all the people in Red Lodge are okay.
Mhm.
So it's interesting, but along with the gas tax, I mean, one of the things that we're seeing go on an international level is the price gouging of gas, as everybody kind of mentally gets back to the pandemic is over. Spoiler alert, it's not. It's going to be terrible for a while going forward. But there's a lot more travel that's happening, a lot more people that are driving, people are starting to commute back to work. So gas demand is up, which is causing the ability for the oil and gas companies to gouge the price up higher than it's ever been in order to make more profits. And we don't have the political will to vote for people to put them in power that are going to turn around to the oil and gas execs and say, I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to do this. And we don't have triggering events, which we'll also talk about in some other taxation stuff that we've got coming up in a little bit, that would stop them from reaping the benefits that we have with the oil and gas subsidies that we continue to pay. Um, if we put those stop and triggering events into the law, they wouldn't push as far to this, because there's absolutely no reason for ExxonMobil to be making $9.5 billion in profit when we're still paying them $2.6 billion in subsidies.
Right.
Like, sorry, you have to pay the subsidies back. You still have almost $7 billion in profit. That's plenty,
Right.
but you're going to pay the subsidies back. So there's some of that stuff that needs to go on. And part of that just requires electing people with the political will to actually do the things that the people need,
Right.
not what corporations want. So I think that's really interesting. But I was looking at this tweet from Jess, and I misunderstood it because it was like, are we trying to fix? Because on my mind was the bridges. I was like, are we worried that we can't fix the bridges? Like, because I kind of hope we can. But one of the bridges that went down today went down because this is the highest the water has been in over a century. It was built in 1912.
Yeah.
Like, the water's never even come close. And for those people who think that climate change is not real, like, take the blinders off. Stop watching Fox News, go out and look at the world around you and look and see what's going on. We had fires that literally destroyed us last year. And this
Mhm.
year, as we approached the summer, we were worried between 6 and 10 weeks ago about the fact that we were in an unprecedented drought. We had low snowfall, we had low snowpack, we were underwatered throughout the state of Montana. And in the last 6, 8 weeks, we've now gotten to the point where we're no longer in a drought. We have more snowpack than we expect. We're still seeing snowfall in the upper reaches of our state. And we are now already flooding.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
And it's supposed to be 97 degrees in Billings on Friday.
It was 43 degrees. I don't get it.
Yes. So it's like, and which is, indicative of climate change, is that that the seasons are much more extreme. And so we're going to go from, the coolness of spring to the absolute hellish summer in a matter of a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is from Jenna. She just sent it to me on Twitter. Let Carol know that I just looked at the river in our neighborhood and it's cutting the banks pretty hard. And then it's this emoji, which I don't know how to say it, but I could explain it as so.
Who said this, Jenna?
This would be Jenna. Yeah. She's like, I'm in a writing group, and also the river's cutting hard. I'm like, there's lots going on. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting. Gas prices are obnoxious. I went and filled up my tank, and it was $74 to fill up my Crosstrek. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, I had ran that thing to the point where the little display didn't just say, "Oh, you're empty. Oh, you've got 20 miles." It was basically, "Hey, goober, get some gas, or we're gonna stop." So,
But the
uh,
interesting thing is that I don't see people running out to buy. Well, actually, I was kind of I think it was a Crosstrek, as a matter of fact, that there was a plug-in assist hybrid. Maybe it was a different one, but it's kind of like that is another solution, right? That to move towards, which is partly what many of the people talk about. Well, Steve running the climate change expert in Missoula, he
Mhm.
drives a hybrid. And anyway, I guess what I'm trying to get to is that what are we willing to give up such that I don't see many people having behavior changes based on gas prices. And until that happens, we're still going to have the climate change issue.
Right. And this is one of those things that comes back to, we've had a lot of discussions over the last couple of years, last couple of decades, where somebody identifies a systemic issue, but then we have a bunch of advertising and marketing and propaganda that tries to make it about an individual solution. And an individual solution for a systemic issue doesn't really do that much. Like
Right.
when it comes to plastic use, it's great if a lot of people are like, oh, I don't use straws anymore. The problem is, did everybody stop using straws? Did we stop producing straws? Because if we're still making them, they're still a problem.
Right.
If we're still using other single use plastics, we're still creating the microplastics that are a problem. And if we don't change the system, because that's where the actual problem is, the end user isn't going to affect it that much because there's not enough for us to affect. Because there'll be the day where it's like, oh, I'm not going to take a straw. Oh, today I need a straw
Right.
because they're there anyway. Oh, it's already been made. Meh, 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 meh. When the change of the system is, can we make single-use plastics that are actually, can they be broken down? Can they be used as fertilizer? Do we have new technology that can be in place with that? And that's what we need to work on. Those are the changes that need to go into it. I got a very interesting phone call um, from one of my co-chairmen of our co-treasurers of my campaign, which is Linda Voigt, who I adore. And she was like, she has land that has oil and gas leases on it, and we've had long conversations when I asked her to be my treasurer about it, and she's like, they're part of how my family pays for things. It's part of our legacy. It's important to us. And she goes, and I disagree that we can change it instantly. And my whole truck with her was that uh, we can't change it instantly. I know this. I'm not a fool. It's not like I can wave a magic wand and all of a sudden solar and wind are everywhere in Montana. But if you don't have somebody like me on the PSC who's advocating for those things to happen now, it won't happen at all because there's nobody else advocating for it. And fundamentally, that's the thing that needs to be happening is this, you have to have the people at the far right or the far left, because they're the ones who are actually going to turn around and push so far that everybody else is comfortable doing anything. And that's part of why she agreed to be my co-treasurer, is because she's like, I don't agree with all the ways that you want to do things right now, but you're definitely doing the right thing, and you're smart enough to not do things that are going to destroy others in the process. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Sorry I wasn't able to communicate that clearly to all the people in my district, but we are what we are. It's fine. So, I just love random things about the seatbelt law. Like, so do you know of how long they've tried to get a primary seatbelt law in Montana?
Um, my guess is since we had the secondary one put in place.
No, the secondary one actually took almost 10 years, from what I remember. The first time I heard about a primary seatbelt law that I know of, it was a fight in the legislature when I was 15. In the mid 80s. So we're coming up on 40 years of them fighting over this. And there was the other side of it was, at one point the Fed said, well, we're not going to fund your highways at all if you don't put speed limits that we approve of up. And
Right.
that's when we got rid of the usual, or the reasonable and prudent, and
Right.
actually put up speeds on the highways. And that was literally because the feds called their bluff. And the feds have never done that with the seatbelt law and said, well, we're just going to do this. They just did the whole, we're not going to let you fund your highways, which, remember, there are different highways, federal and state. Oh, we've got somebody on here. Ken Liston just put this in. Don't worry about plastics. They are going away. Plastic is derived from petroleum. Same with Vaseline. It is not going to be produced in the United States. I kind of get what you're saying, Ken, but plastic is still produced here. It's still used in a wide range of things. And while its original production may not be in the United States, its final form definitely is. And I can't imagine that's actually going away anytime soon until something can replace it. And I don't think the plastics as a category need to be replaced. I think single-use, non-recyclable plastics
Yeah.
do. But that is simply what is the chemical formula of this? Because yes, they are petroleum. They are. It's carbon. So the other side of the plastics thing is, oh, isn't it carbon abatement? Kind of, but not always. Also, it's got some other things wrong with it, and we need to do something with it. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So,
You
how
could have,
was
you could have
everything in Billings?
old Billings is just well, as Jenna said to let me know that looked at the river and it's cutting the banks pretty hard. So Jenna and I live down by the river. Jenna Martin, House District 52. So things in Billings are good, and but it's also on a positive note, Zoo Montana had their highest number of memberships sold in a day recently.
They
They
did.
they did that's the high note that I'm a lead that I'm a lead with. Um, it was in response to outcry because of June 22nd at 12 noon is going to be Drag Queen Story Hour
Mhm.
in conjunction with Pride Month. And I don't remember who it was that started it, but everybody has weighed in on. Um, Everybody just has weighed in on that. I'm getting text messages from Jenna. I think she's back. Um, she says that she should be, and but she thinks I'm okay. So her and Chris and the three kids may be over here soon. And oh, she just sent me a movie. I'm not going to watch it right now. Um,
Yeah, so the Drag Queen Story Hour is going on at Zoo Montana. It's part of 406 Pride,
yeah,
which I haven't looked at in a long time. But so 406 Pride is actually born out of when we did Big Sky Pride there in 2017, and the group we worked with then managed to keep it going, which is great. And because I think it's funny because I run Pride, Montana Pride. It used to be Big Sky Pride, and I would always get the well, we're going to do our own Pride in our own city. Good, that's the whole point. We should have Pride statewide year round. That absolutely should happen. And the 406 Pride of Billings, they've done a great job. They have some amazing volunteers. They've got a lot of stuff going on, but they decided to do the Drag Queen Story Hour, which is a really awesome thing. It's a super fun event. It is very family friendly. It does have drag queens, but literally all they're doing is reading children's books to children, which is amazing and super fun. And we had a bunch of bigots that just came out of the woodwork. It's the Unfamily Foundation with Jeff Laszloffy and his ilk. Just decided that they were going to be awful about it and target the queer community, specifically targeting the trans community, which is not the
yeah,
same as the drag community. And if you're not a part of the community and you don't understand that, ask us. We're happy to explain it to you. Come and talk to us. We're happy to have you at our events, but don't be a bigot. Don't be a
right.
bigot. But they're doing that on Wednesday, June 22nd from 12 to 4 p.m. It's going to be an amazing thing. Anyway, so there was this whole big brouhaha. A bunch of bigots are like, wow, well, the zoo is gay. That's just the penguins. The penguins are gay. That's a joke for those of you who are at home.
Yeah.
But um, the the attack was really disgusting and terrible. So what happened was our community stood up and our allies stood up. And when we put out there the call, it's like, hey, please support Zoom Montana, gets tickets to these events, maybe think about becoming an annual membership, doing a family membership, all those sorts of things. And they had a huge, huge turnout of people buying memberships, buying family memberships, gifting them to other people, just making donations, which is awesome because everybody. zoos are great. Zoos are great educational tools. You get to see things you don't get to see normally. It's a great thing, and Zoo Montana does a great job of taking care of their animals, making sure that everything is
Mhm.
done in a way that is humane and keeps everything above board, which is very important because there are a lot of philosophical issues about whether you like zoos or not, and I'm not willing to get into those right now because it's not PT Barnum. They're not doing that, which is great.
Mhm.
Um, and for you to get upset about, oh, well, we're going to punish the zoo because they support the queer community for an event.
Mhm.
Like, you're terrible people at that point, and the allies told you that you're terrible people, and they showed up. So that was awesome. I'm very excited about that because it's not the only thing that has happened recently. I don't know if you heard about the Proud Boys that stormed the Drag Queen Story Hour in Alameda, Texas. Um, that was, domestic terrorism at its finest by a group that has been had their leadership arrested and charged with sedition because of January 6th. So they showed up, and then we had in Pride in Coeur d'Alene on Saturday a group of 31, I believe, Patriot Front members um, get arrested because they were threatening to have a riot at
Mhm.
Pride because they don't believe that queers deserve to live.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been a little stressful. We've been asked about how we're going to keep people safe at all of our Pride events, and one of the things that we do is, we work with the local authorities. This is true for uh, Big Sky Pride, Montana Pride. It's also true for 406 Pride. It's true for Missoula Pride. It was true for Anaconda Pride, for Glacier Pride, for Livingston Pride, and it'll be true for Butte Pride. Every single one of us, we're dealing with the authorities to make sure that we are as safe as possible. We're tracking the groups to make sure that if they're saying they're going to be somewhere, we have extra security in place for them. We do have security that will happen at our parades. We have security that will happen at our rallies. We have security that will happen at the bigger events. And it is important that we have them because there are so many people who want to go to Pride, but they're worried that they're not going to be safe. And all I can tell you is you will be as safe at these as you are living your authentic life anywhere, which unfortunately isn't always the safest thing in the world, but we're doing everything we can to keep you safe. We are, and if you ever feel unsafe, if you see something weird that's going on, make sure that you know how to get in touch with the parade organizers. You know how to dial 911 on your phone, call people. Every one of our events will have the police non-emergency number so that you can just say, hey, I saw this thing, you might want to be aware, and you can let them know. Even though you're out of town, you'll have the direct access to that right away because we think it's important. um, but it's really disgusting that we had fought and won so many rights, and now we're back to having to fight just to be allowed in public
Yeah.
because these people are being terrible. So I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you a question, and Carol, I don't want you to think that this is ageist, but you are older than me. Um, I think it's like by 5 years. Um,
I'll be 60 June 27th.
okay, so you are just slightly 10 years and like 7 months older than me.
Oh, you're so
Which
sweet. You just thought I was 55. That's wonderful.
well, I have to remember how old I am, but I always think I'm 35. So really, I thought you were
Okay,
40.
so I'm just 40.
So one of the things that you've been around for a lot of these fights, you've seen obviously Roe v. Wade and a bunch of the other the I don't yeah, I'm guessing you saw the Civil Rights Act be signed and kind of remember that. So you've seen all these pushes towards equality, and then now you're seeing them roll them back. How does it feel to still be in this fight and have to refight these battles that we thought we had won?
Hmm. I well, a couple things. It's so it's interesting, and I can't remember how old I was, but I went back and I started to watch, and I couldn't finish it. During the pandemic, there was I think it was on Netflix, the story of Phyllis Schlafly,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I think I was pretty young when that was going on. Um, and just anyway. So I think I'll get to an answer to your question, or maybe not. Probably, who knows. But it's just is so fucking sad that we can't be decent to each other. That we can't. Okay, and I'm just going off of the movie with Phyllis Schlafly. I didn't, like I said, I was a little kid, but it's like the the saying that over and over again that she was a. I'm going to compare her to my mom. This over and over, she was like, that she's a homemaker, blah blah blah. Well, she wasn't a homemaker. She was a she was a woman of privilege, such that
Mhm.
she had people doing the work of the home for her, and she could go off and do all these other stuff. Um, Compared to my mom, who my dad left in, let me think, I think it was in 70. Yeah, my dad left in 1970. So I was 8 years old, and I had two older siblings, and my much older. My brother's 10 and a half years older than me, and my sister was 12 years older than me. Um, but my mom was left to raise me on her own,
Mhm.
and she had to work her tail off, and she really ran businesses for people, um, but was paid minimally, or I don't even know that I want to say minimally, but wasn't paid like office manager, which she was, at the plumbing shop and the plumbing wholesale shop that she worked at. She really
Mhm.
was like an office manager, yet she was paid as um, a secretary, which my mom would say, well, the secretary runs. So the whole idea is that of privilege, and like I said, I probably am not getting to an answer of your question, but I just what frustrates the hell out of me is that why is equality so damn hard? Why? I don't get it. So one of the phrases that drives me crazy is, or maybe it's an ideology, and that there's a phrase that goes with it, is that, well, pull your stuff up by your bootstraps and work hard and you'll
Mhm.
have a good life. Well, what if you don't have a fucking pair of boots?
Right.
You
Exactly.
know? So maybe we need to give people boots and an opportunity to work hard. And then again, the whole idea of working hard is a capitalist idea, because you go work for like right now. Well, you just go work hard. You'll do well. Well, capitalism keeps setting the bar higher and higher and higher for how they need you to work for them to make them money. Meanwhile, you're not. Nobody's gonna catch up. And
Right.
so I'm not answering your question. I know that, but it just frustrates the hell out of me that
I
uh, that we can't treat people decent. And and
Yeah, and I think you are answering the question because it's like we do win these things. We have these moments where it's like we have fought this battle. We have now gotten to this point. We know that women have bodily autonomy. And then, 50 years pass, and now we're back at the point where we're like, we have to tell you this again, apparently, because you don't fucking listen.
yeah,
And so you're going to make it worse, and we're going to have to set you right. And this is the thing. Um, so I could hear the frustration in your voice with all of these things that
Right.
are happening. I think it's interesting that you bring up Phyllis Schlafly because she was a terrible, terrible excuse for a human being. And she lied about everything that she did. Like,
Right.
she's like, I'm just a homemaker, she would say in her St. Louis accent. And the truth of the matter was, she had a law degree, she had all the privileges in the world. And her only idea was that she wanted to make it so that things were worse for women.
Andy's
And
in the house.
she is. And here's Brandy adding to this conversation because it's not about money, it's about power. They depend on the threat of poverty to maintain power over the proletariat and precariat. And those groups consist largely of women. And it's true. And so every time we deal with these fights, every time we deal with getting rights for these groups, we then have this pushback from people. And we haven't had a lot of up until 2016, we haven't had a lot of overt pushback. We've had a lot of covert pushback, which many of us were aware of, and many of us were calling out, and many of us had problems with. But we kept being met by the political establishment with, oh, it's not going to be that bad. It is that bad. It absolutely is that bad. And now, those of you who wanted to just make it go away and not be a thing that you wanted to discuss anymore, you're stuck discussing it with us because it is that fucking bad.
Well, and I want
So,
to add to something that Brandy said because I find it hysterical that women pushed for prohibition
mhm.
and they got it. They pushed for prohibition. They didn't even have the right to vote, and they pushed for prohibition and they got it. And that experiment went so bad that women pushed to end prohibition. And it's like so it's like the most powerful group of people can make things happen if we could all get on. I don't even know that I want us all on the same page, but
In the same ballpark would be good.
yeah, no shit, no shit. And I guess the other one that and I just want to I from 1988 to almost 2005, I worked for the Indian Health Service,
Hmm.
and I've learned so much about race since leaving the Indian Health Service that I think it'd be fun to have a time machine and be able to go back and see if I could have made much more of a difference. But um, anyway, I guess what I'm trying to so I'm trying to gather my thoughts around this because I had a really good one and now it's gone. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's so much that we need to do. So um, in the state of Montana, they were well. I shouldn't say in the state of Montana. On the Flathead Kootenai Reservation, there was a presentation today about taxation
Hmm.
and all the misconceptions that we have about Indian reservations and how um, let and this was not part of the presentation, but let's that there's this misconception that everybody gets a check. Well, they do not. Um, that and all the things that we believe, all the lies that we believe about groups of people to keep them marginalized is heartbreaking.
Right. What's weird about that to me, because I've heard that one before too, where, oh, all the people on the reservation get a check. No, you're thinking of Alaska, actually. Because all the people of Alaska do get a check for the oil and gas that gets mined there, but that needs to stop because we need to stop using oil and gas. I do think it's interesting that you have a Republican stronghold like Alaska, which effectively has universal basic income
Hmm.
because they all get paid from the oil and gas leases that are out there. And Republicans are like, oh, it'll never work. It could never happen. Sir, it already does.
Yeah.
Um, we can see it right now. There was an interesting thing that happened in, I believe it was here in Montana, um, this weekend, which was a little bit tragic. I didn't dig into it because I was busy with other things. But there was a family that had four kids, and that was homeless. And so DPHHS took the 4 kids and split them up and sent them to 2 different foster homes, and are paying those foster homes $3,500 each a month,
Exactly.
uh, and have destroyed this family unit
Right.
instead of taking that same money and making it available to this family so that they could get housing.
Yeah.
And I'm not, if I'm not mistaken, 3,500 a month between the two of them is $7,000 a month. Even in our housing market now, most people should be able to find housing then, and then you would still have the family unit together. But
Yeah.
instead, we've decided that we have to punish them
Right.
because our policies are terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. And these are the things. Everybody that I know that's on the right, that is conservative, that has their moments of, well, we have to do these things because it's the only way to keep things fair for everybody. They never have anything that's actually fair. What they do know is that they don't want to pay for anybody else. They don't want to pay for anything else because they're basically of the mindset of, I got mine and that's all that matters. And that's the whole thing with, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Our current governor likes to use that one all the time, but never mind that his company, which was, I believe, the fourth company that he founded, was funded through government grants
Mm-hmm.
and government programs
Mm-hmm.
and investments. There were some private investments that made it, but not all of them.
They
What
wouldn't use
bootstraps
those.
are you expecting other people to pull up when you didn't even do it yourself
Right.
to make your millions that allowed you to buy your, ugly ranch? Oh, his house is so ugly. In Bozeman, and cut people off from the river.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, so it's just frustrating. I mean, there's so many things out there that are, we have these constant fights that we've been in for the last 50 years with equality, bodily autonomy, privacy that have been going on. We have, a Supreme Court now that has been steered to the right by organizations that have, on a regular basis, made it their explicit goal to turn the United States into a Christian theocracy. But they're not even following Christianity to the extent that if Jesus were to show up right now, he'd be very confused. He'd be very confused by what they consider Christianity. That whole love thy neighbor thing, that's not a NIMBY proposal. You actually have to love your neighbor. That whole, don't pay bankers and take care of the poor.
Yeah.
Those are the things that Jesus was for. I've read the book. And it's one of the fastest ways to become an atheist for many people, but that's a whole different discussion. The whole thing about anti-abortion, there is a recipe in the book for how to make an abortion, and there is the statement that life begins when you first have your first breath, the breath of life. And I don't understand. I don't understand how these people get so wrapped up in the thing that they want. And I don't understand how you can want power so much more than you want to be a decent person.
Yeah.
Like, what does it get you? So, I don't see a lot else that's coming in from chatting. I don't know if Brandy has anything else that she wants to add. I am super excited for Prides. Are you going to go to Billings Pride?
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I've got I am president of a local chapter of an organization that I'm not certain I can say what it is while I'm doing politics stuff. But we're having a tabling event at the National Pollinators Week, which is the same time as Billings Pride. But I'm going to see if anyway. Long story. That's a long yes. So I got one more thing
Sure.
so got this email and tried to read through the email a few times it was an email and you might have gotten it too. It was an email sent to I think every person who was running for political office. I'm not certain, but it was about Native Americans and I'd recognized the name from my time on the Black Creek Reservation. But one of the things that I find really interesting is that now my phone's not, one of the things I find interesting is that, and I'm going to take it as a win. I'm not certain that she would, but um, Pastor Jordan Hall
Hmm.
uh, had to apologize to Adrian, and I'm probably going to mispronounce her last name,
Adrian Jawart.
Adrian Jawart. He had to
Hmm.
apologize to her, and he did that in the Montana Daily Gazette. And he did that
Yes.
in maybe I'm just behind the times, but he did that May 24th, and I think that that's a huge piece of news that asshole lied and tortured this poor woman,
Hmm.
and and he had to he had to own that he lied.
Yes. So I can give some more insight on that, although I wasn't involved in all of it. I do know Adrian. She's delightful.
Uh-huh.
And uh, Jordan Hall is the only protester that we've had at our prides since I took over in 2014. He showed up in Helena. He was protesting out in front of the Rialto. He's a terrible excuse for a human being. And he has, as a pastor, bullied a teen to suicide. So, um, just on the basis of is he a decent human being? The answer is no. Fuck no. No.
Mhm.
His tactics are terrible. His religious beliefs are terrible. The fact that he believes in guns more than God is terrible. And everything about him is just scummy. What he did to Adrian was misgender her, attack her, claim that she had attacked several Republicans. It was this whole big mess. And Adrian wanted to sue, and Adrian found some really, really good lawyers. Oh, and Brandy actually knows the name of the child that was
Yeah,
bullied to death. It's Braxton Craner.
yeah,
And may he rest in peace because he doesn't deserve that
right.
at all. And Jordan Hall hopefully will have to pay for that in the lakes of hell for all eternity because he's just awful. Anyway, so he thought that this case was not going to go anywhere, but Adrian had some very amazing attorneys. And Jordan, being the egotistical idiot that he is, tried to defend himself. And as the old saying goes, if the person that defends themselves has a fool for a client and an idiot for a lawyer. And that's exactly what happened. So he ended up not only losing the case and having to do that, he then tried to declare bankruptcy to avoid having to pay any of the fines, not realizing that if you declare bankruptcy, all of your assets go to pay off the bankruptcy first. So he's having to sell all his guns. I
Oh,
think that's a perfect punishment
yeah.
to start with. It's a good start. The other thing that's happening recently, he did get busted for DUI. He's tried to claim it was a vitamin D deficiency. Several doctors I know pointed out that's not a thing. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But he is a terrible excuse for a human being,
Right. But
and he's just getting the beginnings of what he deserves, and not even nearly enough.
right, but I just and it's kind of like, so so it's like guys like that are, as you described, are scum of the earth, is putting it mildly. But it's like, okay, but when they're called out, when they're found out that just how despicable they are, I didn't see this in any other news outlet. I got the
Uh,
link to it on the email, and maybe I just missed it. I don't know what was this was this a news story anywhere else?
um, I know that it was in like the Lee newspapers carried it, Billings Gazette carried
Okay,
it, and so it
okay,
went out through the Lee
so I just
newspapers.
missed it. Okay,
I don't know if it was in the Great Falls papers, and I don't know how much they covered it. I remember seeing it; it wasn't high on my list, but let me look it up actually. I do have Google in front of me and sitting in front of a computer, so why not?
well, that's all right. Well, and a lot. The other thing I want to say is that the $250,000 or no amount of money um, could possibly make up for being tortured the way Adrian was.
Right. Search is not getting me much today. Maybe it was only on the Billings Gazette. No, I saw it, but maybe I am. Ow, learn to put all of the search in, Kevin. Do. Now it's making me do a Google search. I know we got the. Well, now I want to know where it was. I did see it, but maybe I just saw.
Yeah, because I don't see it on the Gazette's app.
I got it's on the Great Falls Tribune, so it was the Tribune that carried it, and then the Religious News Service. So Great Falls Tribune did carry it.
Interesting.
So Gannett carried it, and not Lee newspapers. So interesting, indeed.
Yeah, and sad at the same time because the zoo thing I believe was the drag queen story hour controversy was in the Gazette. Well, let me just make sure.
Zoo, Montana. I love doing live research. Yeah, it was
Brandy, help us out.
on June 10th.
Okay.
There's, let's see, two different stories. One would be 406 Pride President Walt Donjus speaks out about Drag Queen Story Hour, and the other is Despite Fierce Blowback, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not a member, so I can't read it. The story hour is going to continue. So
Yeah.
it is interesting. I mean, Walt makes a good point in there, just in the quote that I could see, which is now you know what it's like living in Montana and being gay. We get attacked on a regular basis by people who literally have no concept of how to be decent human beings.
Yeah.
So that's what's been coming up.
Which that is so sad. It's very hard. Yeah, I just there's also setbacks.
Yeah. The other one that Brittany brought up was any comment on the SCOTUS ruling against bail hearings for immigrants. I haven't read the ruling yet.
Yeah.
I read two of the other ones that came out today, and I hadn't read this one yet because I didn't know anything about it at all. Prolonged detention. Oh, great. So in a ruling today, they just said, oh, there don't have to be bail hearings. We can incarcerate them forever. Well, then we better fix how we incarcerate people, because right now it's basically just torture.
Yeah.
It's the whole, this country was founded on immigrants. This country is literally built on the backs of immigrants and stolen land.
Yeah.
And for anybody to say that, oh, well, they weren't allowed to come here, they were coming here for a better life. Let's make it so that they can actually have a better life. And if your answer to them coming here is, oh, we're going to punish you and we're going to treat you as subhuman, that says so much more about us than it does about them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I want everybody on the right to actually hear, to understand, is everything that we do as a government to individuals, if we do not take care and do it well, we are the ones who are damaging ourselves, because that's just one person, but we have decided as a society that we find that to be okay. And it's one of the things that I find that's really gross about the for-profit prison system, Because what happens is we as a society have said that if you commit these certain crimes, your freedom is restricted
Right.
for the good of all. But what we haven't said as a society is that our responsibility in restricting your freedoms has to be really, really intense. Our responsibility must be extremely high. Because if we're going to take away the base freedom to move about from someone because of something that we are fairly sure they did, I mean, beyond a reasonable doubt in most cases, if we're going to do that, then we have to make sure that we are taking care of that person in a way that will make them better for when they come out. And that is not something that we have been doing.
Right.
Instead, we have the 14th Amendment, which includes the shitty ability to turn people that are incarcerated into slaves.
Right. Yeah.
That should not be a thing at all.
Mhm.
So, the fact that we now have the Supreme Court, and I'm going to guess it was a 5-3 rule on this. I don't know. I'm looking to see. I don't
That'd be
see in
probably
this.
about right.
Oh, it's an opinion by Justice Samuel Alito, known for being human. Not. It's terrible. Um, yeah, no, I find that awful. Carol, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you've pretty much. Well, I guess I not necessarily on the ruling, but along the lines of the DOC and in corrections as a whole, and it's just as um, so I've got much experience in. I used to be a volunteer at the prison in Shelby. I
Mhm.
have helped a person or two, actually probably more about 5 or 6 persons at the women's prison, and I've been a volunteer at the Yellowstone County Detention Center, and none of it works. None of it. And I guess I also want to say that 2010, my sister was killed by a drunk driver, and ooh, big eagle. Oops. No, it's a freaking turkey vulture flying. I gotta go. Anyway,
Do you have to
sorry.
go?
Um, so the woman was ended up serving 7.5 years of in the women's detention center, and I got to tell you that none of us are the better because of that. Nobody in my family's better because of it. Certainly, nobody in her family's better because of it. And the cost was somewhere around $65,000 a year um, to hold a woman, in prison. So I've thought for a long time, what if they took and really started putting some efforts towards mental health? How could we do that? And it's yeah, how what just how broken that system is, and I don't have any, and that's one of my issues with running with for the legislature is that I just want us to do better. I got a few ideas, but God, I wish I had all the solutions. But one of the things that's on my walk cards is that all of the issues that are before us are so very messy that it would be really great if it would be if it would be we could get down to this is the right way, this is the wrong way, or Republicans got it figured out, or Democrats got it figured out. It is so much more messy than that. and the
Right.
issues that we have are going to take us a long time, and the Department of Corrections is one of them. I guess one of the things that I want to see is that there's a particular state senator that happens to represent my Senate district that offers testing services to the county for I think it's the county anyway for drunk drivers. That that yeah, come to me. I will test the urine and make sure that that's all good. Which um, I won't go down that road too far, but it's like, how much more are you going to put on people that
Hmm.
that there's already enough, and you're gonna
Gonna add more things.
add more things, and you're gonna have such focus on abstinence as opposed to having focus on healing.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw Brandy's up because it ties into what I was gonna say. See, but that's the wrong question. The question is, if what we're doing isn't working to solve crime, what is the actual goal? And the goal, unfortunately, for what everything is right now, is to support the capitalism that is killing all of us.
Mhm.
And that would be, spoiler alert, the goal is to increase recidivism to prop up the prison industry, which then props up all other industries because it's slave labor, as I said at the
Yes.
beginning, which
Yes.
is true. I mean, that's the thing. My whole thing with, if you have anybody that is incarcerated because we've taken away a vital part of living life, which is their freedom, if we're willing to do that, we then have to pay them in other ways. We need to make them better and
Yes.
make them whole so that they can come back into society and be productive and be good and do the things. But we can't even do the things like educate our people and make sure that education is funded evenly across the United States. Like, there's so many things that go wrong. Um, so they're not trying to solve crime and arguing this issue like they are will get us nowhere, which is true. And then Brandy had this. We should talk about what women are supposed to do with the ongoing tampon shortage, in addition to everything else shortage. The tampon shortage is a crisis. It is a crisis born of the fact that we have been in a pandemic. The supply chains are completely disrupted. The costs on everything are out of whack. We have a bunch of people that are gouging on prices because they can think they can get away with it, because we have a government that is unwilling to step in and say, you will not price gouge. You
Right.
must actually just show the worth, and we're going to fix these things. We haven't got a leader that is willing to use the Defense Production Act to actually make these things happen so far, and we need it.
Well,
Point blank.
and I brought this up a couple weeks ago. Antitrust is that we've got
Mhm.
so many corporations that have no competition.
Right. And keep buying up their competition in order to stop it. And we have a toothless government that won't fix those sorts of things. And that
Yeah.
is why, here's the thing, a spoiler alert for everybody out there: if you didn't vote in the primary, you may not get the candidates that you want in the general. But if you don't vote in the general, things are going to get worse. So I
Yes.
understand that there's a lot of people that are disappointed that some people didn't make it through their primary. I know several people, several of my friends did not make it through their primaries. But what I would point out is that every single person that ran, single person that stepped up, we all did really good work to get in front of you. And there were an absolute boatload of people that did not vote. The drop in the
Yeah.
amount of participation was something like 60%. That's pathetic.
Hmm.
So I know what I did to get through my election. And, there are plenty of people that have made it through simply because they weren't challenged in any way, shape, or form. They had no primary, which in a lot of cases means great people are going to be there. Carol, you're one of them. Jenna Martin is going to be there. Both of the Melissa Smiths are going to be there, which is great. Aaron Tate is not going to be there.
Right.
She didn't make it through. Jacob, why can't I think of his last name? And Jake Troyer. Neither of them made it, and Melissa Romano did. That's how it works.
Right.
But if you didn't get the candidate that you want on the general ballot and you didn't vote in the primary, you're why. So we need to do this stuff. You need to step in and be involved all the time. Politics isn't something that just happens for 20 days out of the year and every 4 years.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. And if you want things better, you have to be involved. Um,
Right.
and and if you want to fix the climate, if you want to make sure that supply chains work, as Brandy said, the tampon shortage is a cotton shortage issue. It's a product of war and climate change, and not so much the pandemic. And that's not what I've heard, but it's definitely a part of it, And if you're not going to fix the environment, it will definitely be the reason that we don't have things. Because right
Right.
now we're missing two bridges, like they were washed away today.
Well,
We
and
have areas of the state that are closed off because the roads are gone. They're underwater
yeah,
because of climate change. And they've never been underwater before. This is not floodplain areas. This is, oh, things have really gone sideways. So, you know, I have some friends, and I'm going to wrap up with this. And this is the thing: I have a bunch of friends that keep saying, burn it all to the ground. You don't have to. Just don't vote. It will burn itself to the ground, and we're
yeah,
all going to die.
yeah. Well, and in Billings, the Yellowstone County had a fairly decent turnout because the county commissioners wanted to repeal the recreation
Marijuana,
marijuana.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm glad that didn't pass. I'm glad they got their ass kicked on that.
yeah.
So, but it shouldn't take something like that to make people involved. It just
True,
shouldn't.
true. But there's also a little bit of playing that is going on with mail-in ballots, that they didn't go out to people, and so it's like I think that that's a big issue that we need to make sure that people that think that they're going to get mail-in ballots actually know well ahead of time, or have confirmed well ahead of time that they are going to get a mail-in ballot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that they're registered, because a bunch of people have been dropped off the rolls because of data issues with their names.
Or
So
they or
check
they
with your
moved 3 times, and, which is a person I know is like I look people up at random just to see, and I look this person up and, "Whoa, look at her. I know that was 3 houses ago."
yeah. And I'll leave everybody with Brandy's final comment, which is true. You can't sell out for Border Patrol endorsements or NRA brownie points. And she's looking at Tester. And yeah, it's a thing. Even the good guys screw it up sometimes. So
Yeah.
anyway, Carol, thank you for joining me tonight. I really
It's
appreciate it. I know it was
fascinating.
very last minute.
Yeah,
And
it's good.
yeah, hopefully we'll have you on again. We
Yeah.
will
I gotta go ride my bike down and see, what Jenna's, sending me videos of.
yeah, the road that is now a river. Good luck and stay safe.
Alright, thank you.